I'm gonna tell you guys the story about me my freshman year. I have this coach, we love her so much, but my freshman year, I was a little quiet, I didn't really like to speak out, and we were sitting as a group, and she just kind of looked at me and she said, hey, when I think of you, I think of this, just one image of a little guy and he's screaming in your brain. And then what we think of is this. It's a scene from SpongeBob, and my best friend and I love SpongeBob, and it's when he forgets his name, and he loses it in the files in his brain, and everybody's freaking out, and they're screaming, and it's like, oh no. And I thought, oh, this is so funny, ha ha ha, thank you coach for saying that about me. And all of us laughed, and she never meant any harm by it, obviously. But for some reason, that moment has kind of stuck with me ever since, and I'm not sure why, but every time I thought about it, it just kind of made me feel gross inside, and it wasn't meant to come off in a harmful way, but for some reason, the only thing I could think of was, well, why do you perceive me like that? Last year, I was diagnosed with OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder. What OCD is, it's having anxiety and finding ways to reduce the anxiety through compulsive behaviors. A common example of this is having to open and close a door 7 times in a row, because if you don't, something really, really, really bad is going to happen. And oh my gosh, if I don't listen to the thoughts in my head, something really, really bad is going to happen, and I'm always right, so I have to listen to the thoughts in my head. And it's different for everybody. It is very conditional as to who you are as a person, and it's the same way for how it develops. It can be genetic, it could be a brain abnormality, or it could just be the environment in which you grew up in. For me, I felt like OCD has followed me around my whole life. And from a young age, I never really had an answer as to what this feeling or this thought was, but I just knew that over time, it got worse and worse, and it managed to stem into my everyday life. The 3 ways I saw it as were contamination, obsessive, and orderly. What I used to just call these was my perfectionism and my germophobia. I didn't know how to explain these thoughts to other people because I knew it wasn't normal for them. They wouldn't understand what it was like to think the way I thought. And it was just better to give the simple, generic answer than to kind of try to go into the process of how my brain thinks. But it's a lot more complicated than people think. It's going from having to be scared of sharing food with other people and utensils to having to wash your hands in a very specific order multiple times in a row and singing your ABCs twice. Not once, not 3 times, twice. It's being afraid of relationships because you don't know how to communicate to other people, all of these random thoughts that go on in your brain and why you're so scared to hold hands because you know they just touched a doorknob outside. It's being afraid when you're in a public space because you don't know why the person just next to you sneezed and they keep sneezing and it's gross and it's getting near you. It's being afraid, it's reading when you're younger, the lines and words in books over and over and over again and falling behind your classmates because you just have to read it until it feels right. It's losing all of your items when you know you have a specific order for everything. And how did I lose it? Why am I freaking out? This is something I should not be freaking out about. I don't lose things. It's having friends and having these obsessive thoughts of, do my friends actually like me? To having this fear of death and what comes after death, and it runs to your head all day, and you don't know how to shut your brain off. It's having color-coded systems and putting places and things in a specific order, in a specific way. When people mess up the order, you get upset, and you shouldn't really get upset, but it still frustrates you. It's having friends and a team and group projects and things to do and places to be, and you having to control everything. It's frustrating not being able to turn your brain off because why do the thoughts never stop? I feel like there's a stigma behind mental health that if you don't have it worse than everybody else, then you're fine, right? Because if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So why is it that this thing that has followed me around my whole life, something that I struggle to talk about? I close my mouth, I shut up. Maybe it's because I'm tired of trying to explain to people what those thoughts look like. I'm tired of trying to come up with excuses and people telling me that, no, you're just overreacting, or oh, you overthink, or you worry too much. It's wondering why, when I want to have those conversations, I feel like I'm going to be judged. The National Mental Health Institute estimates that 2.3% of the population has diagnosed OCD. While that sounds like a small number, there are 8 billion people on this planet, and that's 1 in every 40 people. Yet for some reason, I never knew a single person with OCD until I told people that I was going to do this TEDx talk. And what I used to think OCD was a girl in middle school sitting next to me having her pens lined up in rainbow order because it was so pretty. And she said, "Oh my gosh, no, don't touch that. I'm so OCD." What does OCD mean? No, I don't really know. I just like things in really, really pretty orders. I don't think that's right. I don't think any of us know what that means. I don't know if we should be assuming that. And I think that's why when my coach assumed what the inside of my brain looked like, I kind of clamped up. How do you know? I don't even know. I don't understand it myself. I feel like in this world, there are so many opportunities that I know I've missed out on because I was so wrapped up in the thoughts inside of my head to look outside and see that the world does not revolve around them. There isn't this giant spotlight effect on me. I mean, like, totally not, right? Like, it's just the world doesn't revolve around me. Shocking, I know. We all wish it did. But I have so much more to offer than just my OCD. Not to brag or anything, but I'm a decorated medalist in rowing. I have all these hobbies. I love to dress up. I love coloring books. I love going outside. I love hiking. I love biking. I love going outside, seeing nature. I love the water. I love activities. I like working in groups. I like being with my friends. I have all these things to offer the world. And yet, I still think that this is a really important thing to talk about. I don't want to pretend that, yeah, there's all these other things to me, but there's still that one part of me that I feel like I have to hide away from everybody else. So, if you're going to learn one thing from this TED Talk, it's not that, oh, she just has these little silly things going on in her brain. It's, hey, there's a stigma behind mental health that we want to shut down and assume and judge when we haven't taken a step back to focus on, hey, how does the other person feel? Have we thought to look inside their brain and say, hey, what do you think? What do you go through every single day? I want to break barriers, and I want to stop this random excuse of hatred when all we can do is choose to be kind. Thank you.